Hi, everyone. This is Rico Figliolini, host of UrbanEBB. This podcast comes out of the city of Peachtree Corners, and we have a special guest today. And if I don't mess up the name, it's Vandana Aggarwal.
Absolutely.
Thank
Well,
you
you can
for-
call me V, Rico.
I'm going to call you V, trust me. And I'm Rico Figliolini, so bit of a long name there. But V is VP of Operations of Aggarwal Real Estate here, based in Peachtree Corner? No, Norcross.
In Norcross,
actually.
yeah. Norcross, Georgia.
Yeah, just off 85 and
Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter. Yeah.
Look, we're completing each other's
Look at
sentences
that.
already.
But where are we doing this? We're doing this from one of our great sponsors, one of our two great sponsors, Vox Populi. Was this tastefully obnoxious? Let me tell you, I asked them to do a corner cut for us, and this is perfect. So they have the Moxie logo and stuff. So they're branding, right? Same way they can brand your stuff. They'll put your logo on anything. They've done, I think, 6,000 vehicle wraps. They've done garments, obviously. They could do one-offs, or they could do 1,000. They do trade show booths, wraps, everything. So anything you need a logo on, think of what object you want it on. They'll figure it out for you. And if you're doing, let's say, 5,000 mailers, and you want that database customized for each postcard, they could do that also. It's called data. I forget what it's called, but they can do that. They can work the data into the printing as well. So all customizable. Check them out, voxpopuli.com. Now, getting to something we were talking about, hands-on stuff, which is this also. This can't just be done by machines, right? Although machines do it, you still need people. But EV Remodeling Inc., they are a remodeling company. They can do design to build. They can do whole house renovation. They can create your deck, your backyard gazebo. They can put a bathroom, kitchen, anything you want. EV Remodeling Inc. is owned by Eli and his family, lives in Peachtree Corners. It's based out of our city. They've done, I think, over 250 homes recently. So check them out, evremodelinginc.com. And I want to thank both of them for being great sponsors of ours. So it's always a long stretch doing that, but I am glad to have you, V.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me onto your podcast.
Yeah, no,
I'm
this is cool.
excited to chat with you.
Well, I met you. Where did I meet you at? I think it was the Chamber.
Yeah, the Southwest Gwinnett Chamber event.
Yeah, and we were talking a bit, and I was like, damn, I had my father owned a business, and he wanted his kids to be in it, and just none of us could go into that business. It was a little difficult, different industry. It was a hard industry. Plus, my father was very patriarchal, very over-demanding. God bless him. He mellowed in age. But when you were telling me about your family, I mean, your father, your mother, your sister, your brother, and you,
Yep.
I mean, all in
We're
it.
all together.
It's amazing.
We're the modern day Brady Bunch.
The modern day. I love it. Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
But let's start a little bit. I mean, you were telling me. I mean, you came from a consulting world. You came where
did,
you were
yeah.
actually being paid a lot more than you're being paid right now, maybe.
I told my father he couldn't afford me when he recruited me out. But no, so I graduated from Georgia Tech in 2007. I actually did join his company right out of college for 2 years, learned a lot about the company. He actually had me go through a rotation in every department of the company to learn more about what we did, how we operated. And I think very quickly, it was also 2008-9 with a recession. But I was also very interested to learn how big companies operate. How can you take a small company? At that time, we were much smaller than we are today, and really understand how do you go from this, which is where everyone starts, right? As a new company, to get to be one of the largest in the nation, in the world, and see how they operate, how they grew it from, a mom and pop business to this global enterprise. So consulting was a natural transition to learn about multiple companies, multiple industries. So transitioned into A.T. Kearney, which has now been rebranded as Kearney, and out of their Chicago office. So was there for 7 to 8 years, almost 8 years.
Entry-level position you got
Yep,
in?
I went in as an analyst.
Okay.
The good thing with that experience was by the time I left, I was a senior manager with Kearney, and I worked across 17 different companies in those 8 years.
Oh, wow.
So I got to experience how CPG companies, retail companies, transportation, IT, you name it, I've done it. In terms of the different types of industries I got to work with, worked with a lot of Fortune 100 to 500 companies at the C-suite level. So we were coming up with all kinds of strategy projects, such as new market entries, mergers and acquisitions. A lot of what I ended up specializing in those 7 years was operational efficiency and growth strategy.
Okay.
So it was I'm grateful for that learning experience, the caliber of minds that you work with. You also get to experience what the C-suite looks like. How does the very top operate, and then it goes from the top down, right? So it is very much led at this very top leadership, and you see how companies change in their culture, the way they operate based on how the top is designed.
So did you see good and bad at the top?
Absolutely. And I'm not going to name names. But you learn a lot when you see how your CEO and your C-suite right below them, the culture they're bringing into a company and their vision and their goals, if they're aligned, unaligned. Anyone that at the very top have different viewpoints of where the company is headed is where companies start to break apart, lose revenue, lose their, people, which is very important.
Where did you see the pain point then? What was the common denominator, I guess, of those?
There's no one common denominator, but if I had to kind of narrow in, it comes down to what is our 5-year, 10-year trajectory? Where are we headed? As large companies grow, you're not just in one industry. You're not just doing retail shopping centers. You're investing in all kinds of properties, just to bring it back to our company. Similarly, a CPG company can make all kinds of products. So they have to decide what it is, because you have to be concentrated on the right places. So if you have a leadership team that is in alignment of what that ultimate goal is, right? Then you have clear strategies and, metrics you're measuring your success against. So that was a big thing that I learned. Also just, seeing how great leaders operate, right?
Yeah.
Some of the best in the nation today. I got to be in the room with them, and just to see how they lead is very important.
Did you see any family dynamics in any of those businesses?
No.
Really?
There may have been like a father-son duo, but when you're looking at the very top, I won't say it was like all in the family, right? And it also becomes the size of a company, right? When you get to an international scale,
sure.
You're not always blessed that every person in your family has the right skill set and experience to fill each role on that C-suite. So
I'm just thinking Trump for some reason. Every kid has a job.
Every kid has a job. You had the accent right.
Pretty much, I guess. So after the C-suite or expansion of it, you traveled a lot too, I think, right?
I did, yeah. So after my 7-8 years in consulting, I was reaching 30, and Shiv, my father, came to me and he said, you're doing this for a lot of outside companies. Why don't you help us grow and bring your expertise home? And I said, look, I'll take a sabbatical. Let me assess the company. And after that period where I took a short sabbatical to come look at how we were operating, I said, I can give you 3 years. And I said, you can't afford me, but I'll give you 3 years of my time. And I said, I think it'll be it was the right time in the company. We were investing very heavily. We were bringing in a lot of new square footage into the company, and we weren't designed to manage it. So we as a company, as you know, we are the investors. We have an in-house management company, an in-house leasing company. So as we acquire new properties, our team does the management for those properties in-house. We don't provide third-party services today, and we do the leasing in-house. But at that time when Shiv started, we had 1 or 2, and now we're at 50 shopping centers plus and other investments that we have. And there's a very different way you operate, and how does the CEO go from being an operator to an owner? Where he's overseeing it, but he's not into the weeds, right? So he has to create a system for that to happen, right? You have to have standard operating processes for your property managers, your accounting team, your marketing team.
And you quite didn't have that before.
We didn't, no. And, and I think that's why he wanted to bring me in, is because my strength is operations, and I love it. I love going into messy places and cleaning them up.
Is that what
and
you did when you were a consultant?
a lot of what I was concentrating on at the end of my consulting career, yes. So I did a lot of operational efficiency work. So we'd go in, assess the way companies were designed,
Okay.
and we'd interview hundreds of team members to understand what their role is. What are they responsible for? How are they delivering? What are they measuring for success? And then we'd redesign the way they did that based on, again, bottom line, what are your ultimate goals for the company? So yeah.
you had to understand that before you got to
Yeah.
that point. And you're not making the decisions, the C-level.
So we would present, right?
Yeah.
And similarly, even with Shiv, when I first joined, I said, look, this is how I think we need to redesign the company from a bottoms-up perspective based on ultimately our goal of growth, doubling, tripling in size over the next 10 years. And I think this is where the father dynamic came
Yes.
in, and I guess he trusted me, and he said, "Do it."
That's
he just
good
said,
that he-
"Do it,"
no.
and it was beautiful because, right, when you're with large companies, it's a lot of time before you get those
That
decisions
trust,
made
yeah.
and that trust,
That too, yeah.
right? And so it was great, and he said, "Yeah, just put it into place."
See, that's a great dad, actually. 'Cause some dads would be like, I don't know about that daughter, or son, or whatever.
It did take time, though, to ultimately, he was in the operation so heavily. And I till today, I'm still like, step up. Like, I need you to not get into the weeds. Like, I think at that time we had tenants calling him, maintenance guys calling him.
sure.
Like, every little and big problem would go through his cell phone.
Oh,
And I
that
said,
is
this
so funny.
doesn't, I said, you're too smart, and you're such a good investor, but this is not your skill set. You shouldn't be managing this. You need to bring people on who are expertise in this area. And I said, you need to be focused on the larger
This way you
plan.
can grow it better.
Which I think has been very successful over the last 8 years I've been with him now.
So before you got to him, though, you were traveling a bit internationally as well?
Yeah. So, God, this is an amazing year. I was very burnt out. By the time I left consulting, I was working 70 to 80-hour weeks, traveling Monday through Thursday, if not more than that, of the week. So I told Shiv, I was like, I'm going to take a month. I'm going to go to India, get my yoga certification. No intention to teach at the time. I just said it'd be a great 1-month retreat. And I was up in the mountains, the Himalayas in India, in a city called Dharamshala. Beautiful place, one of my favorite in the world. And I think I needed it for myself emotionally, mentally, to take that break. So I turned 1 month into 1 year. I didn't know it was going to be a year.
In that same city, in that same town?
So I ended up, the school that I had gotten my certification with, I asked them, I was like, do you mind if I hang around for a little while? Very casually, I'm like, I'll pay for my room and board, but I just want to be around this group and this energy. And they said, well, if you're going to be here, why don't you intern? And they're like, room and board is free if you intern. I was like, sure, not thinking what it was leading to. And this is that beauty of the universe coming into play. And so I started teaching, ended up loving teaching. So then I ended up teaching the 200-hour yoga training course. And I was in Dharamshala for 4 months. And then I moved down to Goa, their Goa campus, for another 6.
Where is that?
Goa.
Yeah.
It's in southern India on their west coast. It's
Very
a beach
different.
town.
Yeah.
So I had
From
the mountains and the
snow
beach.
to-
But I'm a mountain girl. I'm a hiker. But no, it was a beautiful experience. Very different from anything I've done with my career, right? But I became a yoga teacher for a year.
Did that clear your head? Yoga,
did.
they say, can do that, right?
Yeah, it's all the tools of yoga, right? The meditation, the breath work, really getting internal, going in, right? Just going inwards, being quiet, which we don't have. We have a lot of noise in our life today, and naturally, right, between family life, work life, social, and then just all of the noise from everything else, right? We're sitting here and I can hear the cars, right? So,
Yes, for sure.
that difference was when I was sitting there, I could hear the ocean waves. And so there's something very healing in nature naturally. So it was the tools mixed with nature. And I still think nature has a very strong healing power on us. So whenever I can, I try to get out on to a
do that.
mountain or by the ocean. But yeah, no, it was a beautiful experience, but
Okay.
it did bring a level of calmness into the way I approach things. It changes your perspective of, at the end, everything's okay.
Yeah,
Right? No
I would
matter what you're
imagine.
going through, it's temporary. And everything that's happening to us is happening to us for the good. We don't know it. Sometimes it seems like a bad situation in the moment, but ultimately, universe, God, whatever you believe in, is at play to bring you something better in your life. And you just have to step back to understand what is it delivering us.
I like the way you think about that.
Yeah.
My wife every once in a while would say, "Aren't you upset about that?" I'm like, "I think come tomorrow, it won't mean anything.
Yeah.
There's no point in,
Yeah.
just relax, take
Yeah.
it easy. Not everything, 2 days later, it's not as important as it seemed at that moment. Maybe.
Yeah. And it's not just that it's not as important. It's also like,
In perspective, though? Or
it's what am I gaining from this? Like, what can I gain from this? Oftentimes when,
What
a
can you
lot of
learn
things
from it?
happen, like you get hurt or, it's like in relationships, right? Or if you have a bad business deal, right? It's like, hey, how am I growing, right?
Right.
And I think that's what makes life very exciting, right? Otherwise, if you're always living on a high, is it a high?
Yes.
Right.
So I'm thinking you were a consultant for 7 or 8 years,
Yeah.
80 hours a week. And all
Yeah.
of a sudden you're doing yoga on the mountains of India.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's almost like a movie. It's almost like,
Eat, pray, love.
yes,
Yeah. It was my
Just
eat,
like
pray,
that.
love moment for a year.
that's amazing.
No, you meet amazing people, but I
Yeah.
think we were meant to meet. Everyone that we come in interaction with
Yeah.
on a daily basis, when you naturally have a connection, there's a universe at play, and we were meant to cross paths and learn something from each other, gain something from one another, give, to the other person. And I think you just have to look at life that way.
I definitely
Yeah.
think along that way. I mean, I
Yeah.
definitely think each of us nudges each other in a crowd a little bit.
Yeah.
And that one nudge can set you off going to different
Yeah.
directions. So I totally believe in that. So you join your dad.
Yes.
And you're so actually, even before we get there, so yoga, but what other interests have you been big in?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm an avid hiker.
Okay.
I've done recently in the last few years, I've climbed Kilimanjaro. I did the Machu Picchu trail. I've done a few 14ers out in Colorado, but I like to test myself physically.
That's great.
Just again, it comes down to how do we find that push within us past our comfort zone?
Mm-hmm.
So is this a physical inability or is it a mental constraint? So to get past that mental constraint of discomfort and then really push yourself to the next level and say, I can achieve something. It's not going to be easy. So to me, if I'm on a hike and it's not hard, I'm like, oh, was it a hike? Like it
Guess
didn't
not,
test
no.
me. But no, I think,
Should do the Appalachian Trail. Maybe that's like 2,000 plus miles or something.
I know, and it is, it's not just like the hiking part. It is
Yeah.
like living out in nature and sleeping
When
in
it
uncomfortable
rains, yeah, sure.
conditions. Yeah, walking in the rain. It's cold. I think the last day of our Kilimanjaro hike, it was negative 20 degrees up in the mountain, and my eyelashes were frozen, and I couldn't feel any part of my body, and and it tested my breathing. And there is that
Yeah.
element of push yourself to the point that it's not your ego anymore. Like if
Right.
your body's saying stop, you have to stop as well and respect your body. But yeah, to really test yourself. But yeah,
So
and then
to circle all that back now, you're back home.
I am back
You're
home.
working with your father, your family.
Yeah.
A lot of businesses grow or die because of family.
Yeah.
If it's a family business, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you have your highs, your lows. Sometimes you don't get along. Sometimes decisions are split. People get upset with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been at your highs and lows physically and
Yeah.
mentally doing other things. Has that helped you in some ways with family? Not that you're having a bad time with family.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like you're all fit
No, I
just
mean-
fine, like the Brady Bunch.
Let's keep it that way. No, I mean, there's multiple dynamics at play, right? It is a family business. My father is also my boss. My siblings are also my friends and my coworkers.
Right.
And it's about, no matter how hard you try, you cannot separate those relationships. There's an interplay of all of it when you spend 8 to 9 hours a day together. And but we all have, again, a common goal for the company and then a common goal for our personal relationship. So when we sit down, we keep in mind that we like each other and we want to keep it that way. Like, very simply put, that's first and foremost for me, especially. Even when Shiv had brought me in, he said, "Oh, can you manage everyone?" And I said, "I'll manage everyone, but my brother and sister." I said, I won't jeopardize the relationship I have with them as a sibling by being their manager, especially because I said, that's your job. Good luck. But not just that, it's, we all have different skill sets. So I said, how do I manage my brother, who is a genius? He's a CPA by trade. I can't tell him how to run the financials of this company. He's supposed to teach me that, right? And same way I teach him that. My sister has a master's in marketing, right? She is by far the most social, likable person you're going to meet, and she knows how to work with people. I said, she needs to teach us that. So I think we're lucky that each of us, and this is I think rare, where you have 3 kids and each one of them has their own skill set.
Yes.
That I think helps us stay in business, and we see ourselves foreseeably into the long-term future being in business together, is because we each bring something very unique to the table. And ultimately, we value the relationships that we have on a personal level as a family above all else, right? And then, the element of how does the yoga experience, a hiking experience teach us? It's not specific to anyone's situation. I think it's a baseline of who you become, right? The foundation. It teaches you patience. It teaches you, again, everything is temporary. So let's not get overly attached emotionally or get upset or too joyful even. Let's just stay neutralized on any situation because it will end and then the next one will come up. And just kind of flow with the ebbs and flows of the ocean. You flow with everything that comes with you, comes your way at work, at home. But yeah, we do sit down as a leadership team, my father and my siblings and I, and we talk about, hey, or we separately do the exercise. Where are we going to be in 5 years? What role do we play in that journey? Right. And thankfully all of ours are very similar in what our goals are. And then we have different skill sets that we bring. So even as we design the future of the company, in a moment where my father is not at the head of the table, we have, we're working on that redesign work, but it's very conscious. It's very intentional. And we all step back and say, hey, look, how do we solve problems? Because we were talking about how tomorrow we may not agree on something, a big decision. What are we investing in? Right. Come back to, right now Shiv gets to make an ultimate decision because he's the one leader at the top. Tomorrow it's going to be 3 people at the top. How do you deal?
Is there an exit plan for your dad? Well, not an exit plan.
Not an exit plan. Back. He already has. I think he's gone from, he's the hardest working person I know. Okay. I get that from him. We're addicted to work.
80 hours a week.
We love working. This company is his baby. I think I've adopted it at this point, and we all have. But to stay mentally sharp, to stay alive, you have to keep working. You have to keep doing something. You have to be working towards something that brings you joy and purpose. Yeah. And I think, he stepped back to take time towards a lot of his nonprofit work, community work that he's very much engaged with. But he's still at the top. He's still running, he's not slowing down. Yeah. We're constantly growing. We're growing this year in a large scale, which is amazing, and he's leading that charge. And
so how many properties do you own now?
Today we have 50 shopping centers and then a few other assets in the company.
Was that 3 million square feet or something? 4 million.
4 million. Yeah, over 700 tenants. But when we sat down a few years ago, we rebranded. Aggarwal Real Estate didn't exist until 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
It was American Management Services, and we had a rebranding effort because we said we want the company's name and the brand to represent who we are. And
I like that, by the way.
yeah, and
That's a great idea.
it needs to mean something. And we were also proud of what our father has achieved, right? He's given us this beautiful life that we get to help grow upon.
Yeah.
So we said it needs to pay homage to him. So we said, let's make it Aggarwal Real Estate, ARE.
Right.
And then as we were deciding what that vision is, we're a family. In the company, we are a family, not just the four of us, but all of our staff, our team. We don't look at them separate from who we are. And so we said our mission as a company is building communities as a community. And it talks about, hey, in all of the real estate work we're doing, we try to make sure all of our properties are beautiful, our tenants are happy, they have direct access to each of us in the company. And on top of that, as a company, we are a community within ourselves because we can't create them until we are one.
Right.
So it was very intentional to who we already were, but putting it into brand terms. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's just all that property,
Yeah.
tenants. Can't imagine father that can sell text messages on all their problems if they have any.
He's a brilliant man.
You could be too possessed on that stuff. Where I want to be cognizant of our time together.
Absolutely.
The next subject really was going to be about also AI, because everyone's talking about AI. We were talking about that before the show started, before we started recording, which was kind of funny because V was asking me if we edit anything, and I was like, no, let's just go straight through.
I was hoping I could say a few things and then have it taken out of this conversation.
Nope, doesn't work that way. So, but ChatGPT, AI, that's all. I mean, could I create a bot to edit this? Probably.
Yeah.
But there's so many things we use in our lives, and you were talking about how it would affect your business. Never mind the consulting work you did.
Yeah, I mean, the consulting world it depends on the industry, the type of work you're doing. In real estate, I've put a lot of thought behind this. There's a lot of conversations happening across every industry, every sector, whether it's education, automotives, like real estate, et cetera. Like everything's being discussed. Like, how is that changing the future? How do we incorporate it to be more efficient, right? Be the best in the industry that we can be, or operate better. And so for me, it's again comes down to that operations element that I think about, like how do I incorporate it for a company that's a medium-sized real estate firm today as we become a large company, a bigger player in the market. And people are very important in real estate, right?
Talk about editing.
I know. I was telling you, we should bring them into the podcast.
We're going to run a little longer on this one.
But let's take retail shopping centers.
Right.
This is brick and mortar. I did a paper actually for a large mall retailer back in my consulting days on how the title of the paper was, "Is Brick and Mortar Dead?" And full circle, I am fully dedicated to brick and mortar, retail, office, multifamily now. But you still need people to clean up your properties, fix your maintenance issues. We were talking about roofing, plumbing, electrical. That is hands-on work. Today it's going to be a long time before there's a robot that comes in to do that. There will be. Yeah. I don't know. I do not see that in 10 years to say we've got roofers that are, robotic drones that are going to come fix my roof problems.
Zumbas, they're going to run around the roof or something. Yeah.
It's actually genius.
What?
A Zumba for my roof.
Why not? Attach it to the right thing.
Roofs, but so those are very people-oriented roles today. Technology will advance how quickly it's done or how well it's done, but you'll still need someone to operate the machinery of it and everything.
Just not as many.
Yeah. Construction, similarly, right?
Unless you 3D print a house.
It's true. It's true. There's so many options. I'm thinking 10 years now. I'm not going to have a 3D printer making the metal framing for my new construction project. or installing the sheetrock, it does probably speed up the process, right? There will be machinery to help with that, a lot of AI development in that way. It's a lot at an office administrative level, right? The speed in which you're processing invoices, the speed in which you are, getting payments taken in. Today, I would say as far back as right before COVID, we were still accepting checks for money. Now it's all online. Like we do not accept money coming into the office, or it's very limited to what we do, right? So that's AI if you think about it, right? The ability to pay online.
QuickBooks Online uses AI now.
So we've been using it for many years. It's the advancement of it has been a little bit slower, and now it's sped up. Marketing. We were just talking about how you created a flyer on ChatGPT, was it? And
I won't talk about the student that's helping us out here and how they use AI.
AI in school, right? ChatGPT. But it's and an AI processor for my HR roles, right? Instead of reading 100 resume, it's going through the system to help filter them out. Whether it's writing contracts, I won't lie, some, legal jargon is coming out of ChatGPT today. And so it's speeding up the way we're doing work. But like my legal team probably, and they won't say it, should be using AI if they're not to help create some of this work, right? So it's like these companies are still going to be needed. But the way that they're able to respond to us at a quicker, everything would just happen faster, right?
It seems like it.
Right, like from typewriters to computers, everything got faster.
Especially if they know that they just did a lease for you for this property in Texas, that we need 3 more leases done for 3 other places. It's not going to be that much different.
No.
Right? It's a template.
It's coming out a lot faster, I mean, the negotiations, that's a people-to-people thing, right? So I think, thankfully, in the real estate world, we're still going to need people. We're still going to need buildings, right? The way built, we were just talking about how a retail shopping center is no longer just for shopping. It has to be for entertainment. It has to be for bringing families in and giving them more than just, hey, go into, a TJ Maxx and buy something, right? It's like, what else are you getting when you're at that center? Whether it's a play space or, events. We're starting to do more events at our shopping centers. So it's, again, serving the community.
And we're seeing that more. More of that happening. We could go on and on here.
I love chatting with you.
And we should probably do one on either AI in the marketplace.
Yeah, overall,
or maybe a panel discussion on something similar.
That would be exciting.
Yeah, I think that would be cool.
I think it's interesting to learn about kind of where every industry is heading, right? It impacts all of us.
For sure. I mean, the magazine business, it's all like we have AI rules, but AI is still being used to degree to research things, maybe, and to do certain things like that. Hopefully journalism isn't just handed over. But they do say 40% of the internet is AI written right now, so which is kind of incestuous almost, because it'll just feed on itself at some point. But
there's a whole discussion about the validity and the trust behind digital content.
Yes.
In the next few years, I think it's going to diminish.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing videos now. It's just like it just looks so real. Yeah. And you could not tell the difference, even voice-wise.
And that's scary to think. It's like, how do you trust what you see anymore? But
So on that note, and since this is not edited, so this is right from the beginning, so this is all true. But I want to thank everyone. Thank you, V, for being with me.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation.
I liked it. Went by way faster than some of these go. So this was a great discussion. But thank you, everyone. I appreciate you for joining us. Thank you for Vox Populi for the studio look and for letting us doing it here, for being a sponsor, and for EV Remodeling. Also, I want to thank Jeremy Pruitt behind the camera, who has taken care. He's a Paul Duke student, and it wasn't him that I was talking about before, by the way. But all the work he's done on the back end on this. So thank you, Jeremy. So thank you all. Thanks for being with us.